Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we snap on our power-up bands and head to Super Nintendo World. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined, as I'm always joined by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. Super excited to talk about Super Nintendo World, and super excited that we have a special guest with us to do it.
We are joined by our good friend from Same Day Shipping, podcaster Ryan Mogge is here.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you so much for being willing to do this.
Absolutely. I had so much fun, and I'm so excited to talk about it.
Before, we have a little bit of business up top before we get into Super Nintendo World. But Ryan, I have to ask you, I have to put you on the spot a little bit, because in Tuesday's episode, Patrick asked me if I had heard of a band from the 90s, and I never heard of it. And
you're going to eat so much crow here. So much crow here, Mark.
Caused a little kerfuffle, little consternation, I would even
pressure.
say. Are you familiar with the 90s? I was not. The band from the 90s Live?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes! I want to sing, but I'm like, it's too much. I don't think.
I'll back you up.
Lightning crashes and old mother cries.
Patrick was, nothing.
Yeah, so Mark was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I sang a little bit of I Alone at him.
Oh, that's a great one.
A little bit of Dolphins Cry.
Great.
And stared at me blankly so hard that I backed down. He intimidated me into like not singing a live song.
I'm glad you backed me up. Thank you.
You could be having those kinds of conversations about Mark not recognizing the band Live in our Discord, where people are always having good conversations about Nintendo stuff and occasionally about embarrassing things that happen on this show. So if you would like to be in our Discord, you can hit us up on Twitter for an invitation, or you can email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com, and we will send you an invitation. We also have a Discord. That's what I just plugged. We also have a Patreon now if you would like to support us with monies. And if you do that, you can have access to a cool show that we're doing called NCS Detective Club, where we are watching classic detective TV shows and talking about them. This Friday, a new episode comes out where we are talking about Diagnosis Murder, which Mark was just saying is like his new favorite show or something.
Yeah, pretty much. Word for word. You can check that out at patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society. We have a bunch of other rewards in there as well.
But for right now, we have got to talk about Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Hollywood. Okay. So we went this weekend together, the three of us. Sarah came too, and we went we went in, I think, as well prepared to do this as possible, right? We got the ticket. First of all, the park sold out that day. And I think it has been selling out just sort of like generally, right? But we got tickets a couple weeks in advance, bought the early entry to the park, which as far as I'm concerned is like a must at this point, right? Mm-hmm. And got power-up bands in advance. So like as much like prep work as we could do. Sarah was also like reading about some of the attractions and like how to game it, but I was kind of like, did you guys do any like prep work before we went in?
I watched a lot of TikTok videos.
Okay.
But the tag is a little muddled with Japan stuff.
Totally.
So I was getting mixed information. So
yeah.
I wouldn't say I was well informed, but I was totally pumped.
Yeah, I was more tuned into like when it opened in Osaka.
Yes.
And so like, you know, I've watched ride-throughs of the Yoshi ride that Hollywood didn't get, the meet and greet with Chunky Toad that Hollywood didn't get.
Right.
But the Hollywood version, I other than like syncing my power-up band to the Universal app before we went, I would say I didn't do a ton of research.
Should we talk about the power-up bands and the like app and like how all of that sort of like integrates into what the park has to offer? Because like I think there's I don't know if there's like a fiction being pushed or like a narrative being pushed that like you can experience the park without the power-up band. You can like see it and do some of the stuff, but I don't really know like what it feels so limiting to not have a power-up band, right?
Well, I think it just simplifies it to one attraction, one ride.
That it's just the Mario Kart thing.
There's Mario Kart, and that's all you can do.
Well, I feel so. What the power-up band does is it's like a bracelet. It's like wearing an amiibo on your wrist, essentially.
Yeah.
And throughout the land, there are little like like Mario icons that you can interact with. And so sometimes, they just play a little video on the side of the wall. Other times they're like, when you're on the Mario Kart ride before it starts, you like put your power-up band next to the center of your steering wheel, so it'll track your score. Basically, it just like tracks your activities throughout the land. When you stand in line for a meet and greet, they'll scan your power-up band,
right?
So you
can
like
earn coins.
You get
stamps
coins
and
like
stuff.
Stamps and things like that. And then within the land itself, there are 4 little challenges. There's kind of like an overarching story with Bowser Jr., where Bowser Jr. has stolen the golden mushroom. And in order to...
That's not his golden mushroom.
No, he's taken it.
Who does it belong to?
It belongs to Princess Peach.
I think it belongs to the people. To the little toadstools.
So the golden mushroom of the people is missing. And within the land, there are 4 different activities that you can do. And if you do them with a power-up band, once you've done 3 of the activities successfully, there's this special activity where you like confront Bowser Jr. and try to get the golden mushroom back. So I feel like that for like the power-up band, I would say 100% enhanced my experience. But I feel like the thing that you would be missing out on is like the Bowser Jr. encounter,
which was awesome.
It was fun. It totally was fun. But like otherwise, there's not really, I think you can experience the land without the power-up band.
Yeah.
But your enjoyment of it, I think, is going to be enhanced by having it. It's just like a weird thing. It's the one part of this whole thing that I'm like, I don't really know that I had a bunch of fun with it, but $40, that adds up fast.
$40 does add up fast, but it added up to $160 for the 4 of us. But like the thing that I appreciate about the power-up band is like the next time I go to Universal, which probably won't be this year, but like if I go next year, I go in 2 years, I go in 5 years, whatever, like that same power-up band will still work, right? Like there's you don't need to buy a new one. And also like if I know someone who's going, like they can borrow my power-up band, like that doesn't, right? Like there's no way to like mess up your stats. It does keep like a running total of how many coins you have collected like lifetime and like the stamps that you've earned lifetime, but like there's no like no one can like take it and like do poorly at the games to like make you look bad, right?
Right. In fact, they seem to give away stamps when you don't necessarily do well at things as well.
That's true. Sometimes, yes.
You get stamps for being bad.
Yeah.
For losing Mario Kart, I believe I got a stamp.
Yeah. If your first time you don't win, you get a stamp in Mario Kart.
I feel like the power-up band is a $40 fee to experience the park.
See, I feel that way too. It feels less optional to me than like a Harry Potter wand or a like using the datapad stuff at Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland. That like the little game experiences where you earn the keys are slight enough that I don't think it would be fun if I didn't feel like I was earning the key from it. You know what I mean?
I don't think you could do like the.
You could do it. You could. Oh yeah. How would you trigger it?
I mean, maybe you could. Maybe it's. We don't actually know how it's triggered, I guess.
Well, but you have to like scan in to start it.
Yeah, you have to scan in to start it. So you don't get to do any of the key things.
But do you think that the like person who's facilitating it on their like iPad or iPhone or whatever
that they could trigger it for you?
Just trigger it for you?
Maybe. I mean, they would have to speak to you, which isn't always something that these
there was
game managers are
hit or
prepared
miss
to do.
For how pumped and excited the employees were to interact with the
But that is a good question. I don't know if like there is a way to activate those games, because the way that we started up all of them was by one of us scanning our power up band to like trigger the game starting.
Yeah.
Power up bands. What Sarah and I went the week before to City Walk. There's like a little Super Nintendo Land store at City Walk where we were able to buy the power up bands, and I got a Mario backpack while I was there, so I could wear it to the park. Thank you. But they're also available, obviously in the world itself. In the Are they in the 1UP factory, or are they?
It looked like they were, but they also have a lot of just like power band vending machines around that you can use to access them pretty quickly.
Well, and like the fact that they're available at vending machines like kind of speaks to another thing that we noticed when we were walking around the world, that there aren't that many like vendors that are just like apparent. Like it doesn't, for as much as like the rest of the park is sort of positioned to sell stuff to you, Super Nintendo World doesn't seem like it was. There just like weren't vendor carts everywhere, right?
No.
Yeah. There's not space for them though.
Right, that's
the
true.
thing.
What
it's
a great
like,
point.
Super Nintendo World is not that big, and so we did the we did the early entry, like Patrick said, which is an additional. I think it's between like $20 and $25.
Yeah, it was $25 for a Sunday.
Yeah, and so you get in to Super Nintendo World specifically like 1 hour before park opening. And
we were actually there. Sorry to interrupt, but we actually were able to get in even before an hour before.
Yeah, they were letting people in by the time we got there at like 6:45 or something. Yeah. And for us, that was like golden, because right now, Super Nintendo World is super popular.
Yes,
but we were able to go in. We were able to do a handful of the activities of like getting those keys without much of a wait. We were able to ride the Mario Kart ride like twice, essentially just walking onto it.
Yeah.
When later in the day, the line would get up to like 150 minutes. And so in the morning, the experience...
That's 150 minutes. That's not an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah.
That's 2.5 hours.
So the experience in the morning was so different from like later in the day when there were so many people in it. Because when it gets really busy, you realize just how small Super Nintendo World is. It's not that big. It is not very big at all.
It's not very big, and it's also like it's very open, right? Like there's like a little like thing in the center, where the Mario and Luigi meet and greet happens. But other than that, like all of the attractions are kind of along an outside wall. So like your like line of sight is not really interrupted by anything. So when there's a crowd of people in there, you just see a crowd of people. And so like, yeah, you're just like constantly aware of like how small the space is and how many people are in it.
Yeah, especially because like there's no place for people to queue. And so there's just all of these like snaking lines just everywhere. Anyway, so it was absolutely worth it to go early in the morning, but I also feel like that affected our experience because we were able to do so much more stuff, I think, than if we had gone later in the day.
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of goes along with, not to blame the cast members for this, but like the vibe of the cast members was hit and miss. The vibe in the lines was not super chipper. It was not a bunch of really happy people in these lines.
No.
And so we were happy and we were having fun, but it was like the vibe of the line was a lot of like, what is this line even for?
Yes.
What do you do with here? I don't understand.
Well,
how long is this line?
Yes.
When we came out of the Toadstool Cafe, which I know we'll get into more, but when we came out of the Toadstool Cafe, someone was like, better tell me the food was good. It was like...
You're at a theme park. How good do you think the food's going to be?
Honestly, better than...
That's true.
Typical of theme park food. But it was just, so I feel like the time we had in the morning when there were no lines, that's how I'm going to remember this experience.
Yeah.
Like that was golden. Vibes went down from there.
Vibes went down from there, and I think it would be hard to enjoy, like if you walked in at 11, I think it would be hard to enjoy the park.
Yeah.
We like Mark said, we were in the park. We're probably on Mario Kart at like 7 or 6:55, right? And that was still an hour and 5 minutes before opening. And like that's just when we were able to actually access stuff. And it meant that we hit our sort of like midday lull at like 10, which is when we stopped for lunch. But yeah, I think I don't know. For my money, it's I think the power up band and the early entry are like necessities. I don't know how to experience the park without it.
Yeah, and it makes me feel sad because
that's an extra $65 right there
per person.
Per
so
person,
if you have got a family, if you got a bunch of kids, like it was great. I'm so glad I went. It was so great, but it's a lot to ask for everyone to have a power up band and pay this fee to come in early to have a good experience.
But it was a good experience.
Yeah,
but I mean, it was a good experience.
So, like, what Ryan? What overall were your impressions?
I loved it. I think, it, and I wouldn't call myself a theme park connoisseur, but I've done the rounds at the theme parks. And I've been into this gamification element, that we've seen a little at Hogwarts with the wands, and that Galaxy's Edge has with the data pads, as mentioned. So I like it, and I'm excited to see this next evolution, and I think this is the next evolution.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And it makes so much sense because Mario gaming is part of it's all built in.
Yeah.
But the fact that you walk up to and punch bricks to get coins is so cool.
Yeah.
The fact that there's little activities that you win or lose and get your little keys, and those keys add up to a thing. I mean, really, my favorite thing was Bowser Jr.'s challenge. What was it called?
Shadow Showdown.
The Shadow Showdown, where you actually are punching little bombs to knock them away. You're ducking under the bullets. You're jumping. You're growing, and you're shrinking. That's what I want out of life. Like, if I invented this land as a 10-year-old, that's what I would have wanted. And so that was just joyous to me.
Yeah, there's, while there are like there are the things that are like clearly set up as like games, and then like other attractions and the rides, but like with the exception of like the meet and greets and the Toadstool Cafe, everything else has a game component. Like everything has a part of it that you are playing in addition to just like experiencing. Which like, it's Nintendo. So like that's Mark, do you know if there's a like interactive or like game component to the Yoshi Dark Ride?
I don't think there is. I don't think there is. Yeah. It's not like a Buzz Lightyear or something where you're like trying. I think it's a passive experience.
Okay. Well, no passive experiences at Universal Hollywood.
Yeah, I think that for me was I had a ton of fun, and I think it really was that, and it makes complete sense for a Nintendo land that there is such an immense sense of play in Super Nintendo World, like because Galaxy's Edge, the Star Wars land at Disneyland, I think is really impressive. Like, you visit it and you're like, whoa, this was a lot of work and is very cool and is like very intricate, but I don't really have fun at Galaxy's Edge. Like, I'm not I'm not, that's not really what it's trying to do. The goal of Galaxy's Edge is not to make you have fun, but I had fun at Super Nintendo World. Like, I genuinely enjoyed, I think one of the things that was super, really, really successful about it that I had so much fun with is the key thing, like the little activities you would do to get keys. They weren't all like super interesting or fun, but the ones that we could do together as a group,
the team key games,
I thought that was so much fun to be able to like.
Do you want to talk about like each of the key games individually? Or?
Yeah, I just want to say about it that it's like what I thought was so much fun about it is like you go to theme parks and it's most of the time like a group experience with the people that you're with and everything. But being able to experience something within a theme park in this way felt so unique and different, and just like it was just so joyful for me. Like that's the part of it that like I remember. Like the ride is cool, the line is cool, and like the design of everything is like really neat. But being able to do that with your friends was like the highlight of the entire experience. We don't hit those clocks to try to like keep the piranha plant asleep or wake it up? I think it must be we're trying to keep it asleep.
I'm sure we're trying to keep it asleep. Where we're talking about piranha plant nap mishap, which was the first of the key games that we encountered. And the park, when we walked in, was so empty we approached it from the exit, didn't even realize. Which is actually, maybe we touch on this now, there's very little language in the park. There aren't like signs up that identify like this is like piranha plant nap mishap is probably listed on the map, and like it's on the map on your phone, but there's no signage above it identifying like that area as that. So we just like walked up to a crew member, friendly crew member, first
very friendly.
First person we met was very friendly, and we were like, oh, can we do this? And they're like, yeah, just scan your power band here. And the way the game works is there's a giant piranha plant sort of like off to the side, who is currently snoozing, and there are maybe a dozen alarm clocks with giant squishy buttons on top of them. And when those alarm clocks start to go off, someone needs to slam the top of it with their fist to snooze that alarm clock. Now, we played this thing together, so there were 4 of us. We each had like 3 clocks that we were accountable for, and it meant that we got through it pretty quick, like pretty effectively.
I think that for one person, it could be challenging.
I think it would almost be impossible for one person.
For 4 people, it was pretty
We all just manned our station.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't really run around.
I was like, maybe if we blindfolded ourselves, like I think if we wanted, we'd have to level up the challenge somehow.
Right.
But yeah, it was really fun. It was so fun to play something co-op, especially right off the bat.
Yeah.
And it might have just been the wonderful attitude of the 3 people that I was with, but even the discovery of there are little M signs on the wall that are like secret Marios that give you little 8-bit characters, or what you punch and what you can't punch. Discovering that as a group was so great.
Yes. Yeah. No, the park, like, in addition to play, there's a good sense of discovery, which is like kind of built into the way like you play in Mario, right? Like finding secrets is always part of a Mario game. And I know this is it's Super Nintendo World, but it felt like we were in Super Mario World, right? Like, yeah, like there is there any other like non-Mario stuff?
Pikmin.
There are a couple Pikmin.
Yeah, there are some hidden, I guess I'll say, Pikmin. They're not. They are actually pretty obvious, but you have to. We saw
2 of them, right? Two
sets of Pikmin,
right?
Yeah.
What do you call what's a group of Pikmin? Do they have a
Pikmin?
A bouquet of Pikmin?
A bouquet of Pikmin. I like Probably. That a
lot. So yeah, that was the first of the key games that we encountered. The next one that we went to is the Goomba Crazy Crank, which has got sort of that like rolling hills thing from I guess like the new Super Mario games and Super Mario 3D World as well, where it's just like a hill that is literally rolling, and there's a crank that you turn and a Goomba that walks on it. But I'll turn it to you two. What was the relationship between, what was the crank controlling? The hill or the Goomba?
The hill. It was the speed of the hill, and you were trying to crank it so fast that the Goomba like couldn't keep up and fell backwards.
Okay.
So that's how, when you were successful if you did that, and if you turned the crank too slow, which we saw some people do,
mostly
at least one
children.
little kid,
mostly children,
then the Goomba is like doesn't fall down and you lose the game.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I will say that compared to, and I think we started off with probably one of the best games.
I think so too.
With the alarm clock, there was such a physical, practical component of you hit the alarm clock and it goes to sleep. This felt like I didn't realize anyone was going to lose this game because it felt so rigged. Yes. Like you said, what are we even controlling? So we're pumping, and the little Goomba comes out, and his legs never touch the
hill, right?
Hill. You never actually see a physical result of your exertions,
right?
It's just,
and there's no like resistance on the crank either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no resistance. So it I don't know. It felt like a rigged game. But again, we saw someone lose, so
it's not.
And I said really loudly, "No one loses that game," right after that child lost.
Yeah,
but I didn't notice. But yeah, there's something to the things that you are actually physically controlling that I think made for the more successful key games.
It's just the least tactile, and I think the worst of the 4 key games.
Yeah, and I think it's so. On the one hand, I like that you can be unsuccessful because that's just a part of like a video game, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't lose any of them, but I think what would make it,
and we never will.
But I think what would make it frustrating for somebody else, like if they cared, like the kid didn't care. He didn't really understand what was happening. He was turning the crank. The Goomba was there, then it wasn't there. Like whatever, But if you were but I think the part that would be frustrating is that later in the day, those lines had to have been like at least 30 minutes to play this like 30-second game. And then if you weren't successful, and some like team members were better than others at explaining what you should be doing or helping you out. We did this third one, the Koopa Troopa Power Punch, which is there's a Koopa Troopa like marching back and forth at the like a couple stories up, and then there is like a pipe that
it's like a T pipe, so that like it's pointed up, and then there are like 2 horizontal like entrances for the pipe, and a shell that bounces back and forth between them. And the goal is you have to hit a POW block, which triggers a second POW block, which triggers a third, and the goal is to time that so it makes the shell in the middle bounce up and hit the Koopa.
Right, exactly. And so like this one, we saw multiple people who just like who struggled with the timing.
Yes.
And then you're like, oh, now I have to. And the team member like at this one was bad. Like
this is the most checked out.
They didn't give like they even when like little kids would try and were missing it a couple of times. So you had multiple times to try to get the timing right before your turn was over. And like to me, it's just like tell the kid what to do.
Totally,
like
help
him out, And they didn't at all.
Yeah,
and then you're like, oh, I lost, and my option is to stand in like a 30-minute line to try again. Like that kind of stinks.
And it's it's triggered by hitting the POW block, right? And the POW block, like all the rest of the blocks in the park, you like actually hit with your fist. But because people have these power-up bracelets and no one really like walks you through how to use them, a lot of people are trying to just like touch the power band to the block, and that's not what you need to do. You need to actually like hit the thing with your fist. It requires a certain amount of force, and like if you're the crew member watching a kid like try and tap the thing with their power band, like, why do you let that stand? This person did a bad job.
Yeah, this person was bad. And I know that it's a crowded park and you can't do this, but give the kid a second chance.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
A second chance.
Like, give him another chance. Like, it takes 15 extra seconds. Give the kid a second chance.
What like adult in line is going to be like, hey, you shouldn't get to go twice. But yeah, and it's like, and the timing on it is specific, right? Like as we were getting closer, we're like, okay, let's watch this thing and like try to figure it out. And we gamed it to the point where like we were all able to do it right away.
Right.
But like it is the most like skill based, like kind of tricky one to accomplish. And both this and the Goomba crank thing were like single player at a time, right? And that means that the line moves a lot slower. But it also means that, like, while your friends are doing it, you're, like, just kind of sitting there, like, cheering them on or whatever, but usually just taking videos of each other playing the games. But, like, I thought that was a bummer about the Goomba crank that, like, you could have 2 Goomba cranks, like, right next to each other.
Yeah, totally.
Like, make it go faster or, like, make it competitive in some way, like, who can knock the Goomba off first.
Right.
But that's just not part of the DNA of those experiences.
No, I feel like the whole place is built for such lower capacity.
Yeah,
yes, 100%.
Totally.
So it's like you should, I'm picturing it, and like a little kid running over and doing the alarm clock game, and then running over and doing the crank game, and then running over and but there's no running over to do anything.
No,
not right now.
Yeah, I think there will come a time.
Yeah,
when although like. I don't know, like Harry Potter, like if you're in the Hogwarts area now, like it's still like crowded, right?
It's still
like,
crowded, but I think you're right that eventually they definitely didn't build like the church for Easter Sunday. Like Super Nintendo World is built not for opening day crowds. It's built for like 5 years from now when something else new has opened, and it's because like now you can go to
that's classic video games, isn't it? that like the first day, like the tax on the servers is too much.
That's right.
It's exactly what this is, but in theme park form.
Yeah, because yes, I like that day. I think would be. That'll be the ideal. 5 years from now is the ideal time to the Super Nintendo World, I think.
Then you don't need to go early.
Yeah.
You'll still need a power band.
You will still need the power band. But you can use the one that you bought 5 years previously. So those are the first 3 key games that we did. The last one that we did, which we sort of loop back around to at the end of our time, there is called Thwomp Panel Panic, which is in a cave like under a thwomp that's like hitting it, and it's a giant touchscreen experience where you have to get all of the panels the same color, so they're yellow and blue. Yeah, Mark.
This was just another one where like we played it in a group of 4.
We played all 4, and it was a mistake.
It was a mistake because
it was too easy.
Because we could cover the entire board, and so I think I had to press like 3.
Yeah,
in order, right. We saw somebody before us try to do it with one person, and they were not successful.
Yeah,
because it would be hard with one person. I feel like 2 would probably be like the optimal amount.
Yeah. We should have done 2.
We should have done 2 at a time.
But it was also like late enough in the day that like I didn't want to fail at something.
Right? Yeah. But that one has the potential to be fun.
Yeah. And I liked that line experience too, like because it goes into this cave, and I don't know whenever. We'll talk about it in a second in the Bowser's Challenge thing, but like some of the line experiences here are actually quite cool when they're actually like there, right? Mm-hmm. Would we like to? Or should we talk about the Bowser Jr. Shadow Showdown, the reward that you get for for collecting keys?
Yeah.
So it's very like it feels like gatekeepy or restrictive or whatever, but there's a dude standing guard at the entrance to this thing, and he won't let you in unless you've collected 3 keys from these key games, right? And you have to scan your thing, and then he lets you in. And then you're in like Bowser Jr.'s little mini castle next to the main castle. And it's got some of like just like the art, the line in here, which I can't imagine anyone ever having to wait in.
No, we were really fortunate. We did not wait at all, but just like everything else in the land, Bowser's Jr. Shadow Showdown does get a line.
It does get a line. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then it's cool that they have like all this like neat art and stuff in there that's like part of the line experience. But then when you get into it, it's how many player positions were there? Like 8
or something like that.
Something like that. And it kind of becomes this like Xbox Connect / like Nick Arcade kind of experience where there's a camera reading you and projecting your shadow up onto the wall, and Bowser Jr. attacks. And like Ryan was saying, you can like swat away bob-ombs as they're flying at you. You can duck under bullet bills. You can get fire flowers and throw fireballs at enemies and try and beat Bowser Jr. Ryan, you won this one, and it was your favorite.
It was my favorite. Those 2 things may be related. If I'm honest about who I am as a person, those 2 things may be. But this was, like I said, if I invented, because I was thinking about it on the way over here, if I at 10 invented a in-person Mario game, this is what it would be. It probably would have been a side scroller, so I'd be actually like jumping over things and running. Less standing, more running. But this is exactly what I dream of from a Mario world.
Yeah,
you're getting to be Mario.
Right, you're in the game.
You're in the game.
Yeah, you take a hit and your little dude shrinks down.
I got so excited. I punched so hard that my power band went flying off, hit the wall, and a crew member had to go get it for us.
My power band also flew off during this thing. Were you able to hang on to yours?
But it almost flew up. My recommendation would be to like bring a rubber band or a hair tie or something to like secure your power up band, because they do not wrap around your wrist very securely. They like fly off all the time.
Well, they're a one size, which I think that's part of it, which is smart. It's like the slap bracelet material.
Yeah.
So it can fit anyone from a little kid to an adult, but it doesn't fit securely.
Yeah. But so Ryan's went flying into the game.
and we had to say, excuse me, can
it's
someone
$40.
climb over there and get it?
Yeah.
No, and also you needed it.
And it has to happen all the time.
Yeah.
It simply must. But so yeah, we had to like wait outside while they were like, you have to leave and then we'll get it. Which is dumb. Why didn't they just like climb over there and get it?
No, they just had to hop over the thing.
Just had to hop over the thing.
I would have hopped over the thing if they had said go for it.
Yeah.
But no, I really liked that one, and I think it. Yeah, I think I have to, and we did at the beginning of this. You just have to say you need a power-up band.
Yeah.
You just need one, and then because otherwise I can imagine if you were a kid and your mom took you to Universal and didn't want to spend the extra $40, you'd really be missing out on such a cool experience. Like it really is the experience of the land. You need it.
Yeah, I do feel like that's like the tension, I guess I would say, in like my recommendation.
Yes.
Is that I personally genuinely think, especially if you didn't have a power-up band and like you weren't particularly like you hadn't done a lot of reading, you didn't know what it was, like I think you could go and have a fine time. But I like the idea that by earning keys there is actually this reward that is gated. I think it feels very like game-like. Like I like that sense of accomplishment and doing it and all that kind of stuff. I think that's very cool. And I think there are parts in theme parks, like there's stuff in Galaxy's Edge I've never seen. I've never built a lightsaber because, like, I don't want to spend the $100 or whatever it is.
So where are you going to put a lightsaber?
We're going to carry it all day.
I mean, like in your home though. Like,
I have a droid.
Yeah.
Well, a droid is different though, because like a droid or even like a sword. This is a weird hang up that I have, but like if you buy a lightsaber and you display it somewhere in your house, because if you're not going to do that, why buy it? Do you display it with the blade, or do you display just the hilt? And if you display it with the blade, like there's no way, like in the fiction of Star Wars, they don't just like leave lightsabers on.
No, you have to do it with the hilt.
You have to do just the hilt.
Yeah, you have to imagine that you lived in that world and how you would store it.
That's what I think too. And at that point, it's such like a small object. I don't know. I've also like thought like, man, it'd be fun someday to just like really splurge and like build a lightsaber. But I'm like, what? Then what do I do? Then I just like hide it under the couch or like put it in storage.
Yeah. But I think that is kind of. But I think that is the. So like I think I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing that the Bowser Jr. experience is like behind not just a pay gate, but like additionally like having the time or the opportunity to do all the different activities.
Yeah.
Right.
But and the ability to do them too.
And the ability.
Like, there's it's not a super accessible area, right? Like if you have trouble with like that crank. I mean, we were saying that like kids routinely failed at these things, but like if you had any kind of mobility issues, I think that crank game would be hard. The Sleepy Piranha Plant thing would be difficult. You can do that one as a team, so maybe like that's a little bit easier. But then even when you get into the Bowser Jr. Shadow Showdown, there's like jumping and stuff involved. So like, it's not like I think there are some more like limitations on this that like Galaxy's Edge doesn't have.
Yeah, I guess absolutely. That's completely true. I guess what I'm saying is like it's kind of a bummer that this is like really cool and is one of the few like attractions, and that it's not just like gated by having to pay the $40. It's also gated by having the time and the opportunity to do all of the other things, which are like reasonable degrees of fun, but like waiting 45 minutes to turn the crank I don't think would be that fun. And so I think that's the tension in the whole thing is it's like it wants to gamify, but that's the downside of gamification, right? Is that sometimes you lose and sometimes you're not able to participate in it. And I think our experience was that it was done really successfully, but I could see why that would be really frustrating for somebody.
I do think the fact that they have the 4 keys and you only need 3 to move forward is probably very helpful for kids who maybe have trouble with 1 or 2 of the
that's
things.
true.
I think for us, it just meant we had an extra key ready for next time.
Which is nice. We still have the key.
We do. Okay, it does persist.
Yes,
I wasn't sure.
We keep our key.
We keep our keys. We keep our coins.
But I like the again,
our stamps.
In 5 years, when nobody's there, and you can buy someone with old power-up band for $5 on Craigslist, this will be the best place to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great experience.
What a great point that you will absolutely be able to buy used power-up bands.
Of course.
But do you think when you pair it with a new app that it erases?
Well, yeah, but who cares? But then it's you mean if it renders it useless?
Not renders it useless. I just mean you can't. I mean, you're right. It won't matter. But you can't I wonder if you scan it, you lose all the coins and everything that's associated with it.
Yeah, or if it won't let a second, if the band be registered a second time.
I feel like it must. You must be able to register it a second time. You just probably can't have multiple registrations at one time.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, it's all just there are those trade-offs with the gamification of all of it. Should we talk about Bowser's Challenge?
Yes.
Are we there now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So the line experience for this is incredible.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Because it starts in a very Yoshi's Island sort of cave thing where the things on the wall look like hand drawn with crayon flowers, a la Yoshi's Island. And you weave your way up into Bowser Castle sort of imagery. There's a statue of Bowser that the line snakes all the way around, and it feels I don't know, that felt like an immersive Mario experience to me.
Yeah, the stuff, it is remarkable how well they've rendered the world of Mario, and how how fun it was for me to hear Mario music in a real world context was super fun.
Yeah,
I loved that part of it. And so you're winding through, and you're going through Bowser's castle, and they have all the different cups from Mario Kart, plus this universal cup, which is kind of what you're racing for in the game. They have this interesting kind of 3D effect. There's some screens throughout the queue that are showing different things, in fire levels in Mario games, how fireballs come out of the fire and then they drop down. You're seeing stuff like that, and they seem to use the 3DS kind of parallax screen technology.
So that if you were looking at it at the right angle, it was 3D.
Yeah.
Well, and there were also there's a part that's almost a workshop kind of area. That I mean, both times we weren't waiting in the line, so we're kind of just cruising through it. But had these little wooden cutouts of Mario characters and Mario Karts and stuff like that. That was just so cool that I wonder. I'm sure just every line experience when you're in it for 2.5 hours that it gets old, but there's a lot of stuff to look at in there.
Yeah, totally. And then you're waiting in this waiting area where they show you how to play the game and everything. And they have they have suits for the different Mario drivers, and they all have big bellies, which makes sense because, they're and the Luigi one has the poltergust down on the floor, just all those little details.
These are all of the amiibo costumes from Mario Kart 8. So these are the ones that you can unlock for your Mii racer by scanning an amiibo. So it's you've played with these, you have the ability to play with these suits, and here they are rendered in real life on these mannequins. It's all very neat.
Yeah, that part is so much fun. And then as a theme park nerd, one thing I thought was really interesting is that the pre-ride video that you watch where they explain the game, normally they're narrated by somebody oh, thanks for coming to the laboratory today.
Hi, I'm Patrick Warburton.
Exactly, yeah. But this it's not, there's none of that. So the music's playing, there's
a lockatoo.
There's a lockatoo that's watching and making little lockatoo noises, but otherwise there is no narration. It's just all visual explaining how to play the game, which makes total sense, but was just interesting. it's like a theme park convention, but also not at the same time.
So let me ask both of you. From watching the opening video, right, that explained how to put on the AR visor, how to like fire the shells, how to drive use the steering wheel, did that prepare you for the actual experience of Bowser's Challenge?
Well, my score would say no. No, I a couple things.
Yeah.
The video emphasizes 3 things, and I'm going to forget one of them. Steering, shooting.
The third thing is get 100 coins and win.
And get 100 coins and win. Yes, yeah. Those are the 3 things, and it repeats it like over and over. Steering, shooting, get 100 coins. Steering is barely important.
Steering is very minimal.
The first time I went through there, I thought I was driving this cart. I thought it was so important that I steered in the right direction, that I didn't make us crash. I was so worried about steering. Steering, just they'll tell you.
It gets you coins. Steering gets you coins. Yeah.
And they'll tell you when to care about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to proactively care about steering.
There are absolutely turns that the cart takes that you don't need to steer.
No.
There will be like an arrow that appears in your like AR visor. And at that point, that's when you steer left or right.
Right. So the overemphasized steering to me.
Yeah. Start with shoot. Shoot
is very important. And shooting is so, at least for me, and maybe there are VR. I don't play VR, so I don't know. But like that was a totally different aiming with your head. Was a total different kind of aiming than I'm used to.
It's shocking to actually like be engaging with it because you're. I mean, do we want to like talk about Mark, did the video prepare you for? The experience.
Yeah, I felt like I understood what I needed to do, but just like I feel like. Again, just like a video game,
yes,
being able to do it multiple times really helps. Because the first time, like, I think I knew I understood the instructions, but I wasn't very good at it. You know, there was tons of friendly fire. I don't think I had put my the strap to hook the AR visor into like low enough, and so you know, like my field of vision wasn't very good. But it is. One of the complaints that I've seen online from people who have watched like ride through videos of Bowser's Challenge, and I kind of felt like you expect a Mario Kart ride to like be fast or have a sense of speed.
It does not feel fast.
It doesn't go very fast.
There are a couple points where it does, but usually it doesn't.
But I thought the AR piece of it was pretty cool.
And like I thought it was like surprisingly good,
and surprisingly successful.
So after you get through this room where there's the instructional video with the Lakitu, you get like a head strap thing that it has a tightening band, so you can like position it on your head. And once you get into the cart itself, you will snap this like AR visor into this thing that's already on your head.
And there's no instructions for any of this. Like nobody's telling you. Like where it should be on your head, like how best to adjust it, how really to put the AR visor in. I mean, it is like once you try to do it,
it's
that
pretty video, but like it's.
But none of the team members are like seemingly helping. Really, they're just kind of like put on your like snap in the AR visor.
Well, and it's a one size fits all visor, and I figured out. But if I was a kid, I don't think I would know how to figure out how to resize it to fit my head.
No, both times I had to fit it onto Sarah's head. She couldn't do it on her own. Like I had to help her both times. But yeah, and it is neat how like easy the AR thing like snaps onto it. There's very little friction with that, and there's no point where like it feels like you're gonna break it,
or anything or that like it's gonna come off or anything.
Yeah, totally. So you like you are now like in the cart, you've got this visor screen in front of you that you're able to see
and you're
through.
In carts of 4.
Yeah.
So like you're kind of like on a team essentially, because the goal is if everybody in your car gets 100 coins from playing, then like your car beat Bowser, and that's the goal. And so you won the Universal Cup.
And are you also competing against like the cart in the other lane too?
It wasn't clear to me.
There are two carts that are going through at the same time.
Yeah, it honestly wasn't clear to me. It didn't really seem like there was much interaction with the other.
Yeah.
With the other
certainly
cart.
no you don't really see them until like the end. You're pulling up and you see like two different like scoreboards at the end.
Yeah. Well, and I think for both of them, they say Mario wins if you win.
Oh,
right.
So
really?
you're both Mario.
Oh, so see that I wasn't clear if it was like, oh, they could have lost and we could have won.
You're on Team Mario.
Uh-huh.
Right? And it's Team Mario versus Team Bowser.
Oh, I see what you're saying. But it's possible for like one car to lose and one car to win.
Yes, I
see.
think that is true. But I think when you win,
everybody's Team Mario.
Everybody's Team Mario.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, which is tough because, Mark, you were Yoshi.
I was, yeah. Oh, yeah, there is one thing. So you, in order to keep track of your score, if you have a power-up band, you scan or you put your power-up band next to, in the middle of the steering wheel, there's a big M for Mario, which is the symbol of like, hey, use your power-up band here.
Couldn't use it to honk a horn, though.
Couldn't use it to honk a horn. Really disappointing. For true Mario Kart 8 fans.
Mm-hmm.
But you put your band up to it, and the first time we did it, like, there's no feedback, which feels like a little like panic-inducing, where you're like, oh, did my band get scanned? Like, am I gonna get the points and the coins for this or whatever?
Well, and I don't think Ryan scanned the second time. I think your band didn't scan the second time we did.
No, because I have the cup.
Oh, you do have the cup. Okay.
I have the cup.
All right. But
also, the M seems to be like a sticker, like applique or something that is already
scraping
which
off.
just
That's
feels to
not
me
good.
like the difference between a U.S. audience and like a Japanese audience. They probably rolled this out in Japan, and those M's are still like pristine because everyone's treating it really respectfully.
Everyone's bowing to it.
Yeah, whereas like here, people are just like
smack.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the experience itself is, you're on this track and you are seeing through the AR visor fellow members of Team Mario and the members of Team Bowser, which are all the Koopa kids, and then like various other enemies and power-ups and stuff like that within the world. Everything else is a physical object, but anything else that like moves on the track is, I guess with some exceptions, but is just like a digital projection on your personal screen.
Yeah, it's a cool mix between like physical sets and animatronics, and then things that are happening in the AR, and the two combine to make this pretty cool world. And like Ryan was saying, it does take some getting used to, because the way that you aim, like where your shells are going to go, and everybody's assigned a different shell color, and the way it's the way you aim it is by where you're looking. So even like if you're looking up versus looking more down, or like left and right, and that takes a little bit of getting used to. It's also kind of cool that it is like Mario Kart in that you only occasionally get these item blocks that have, so you
your
can
ammo,
run out of shells. Like there are times where you're like,
I always did. Yeah.
You have to like you can't just like shoot willy-nilly. And you also, I think, get like negative coins for friendly fire. So if you hit members of Team Mario,
yeah, I mean, I accidentally shot Yoshi a couple times, like for sure, because he's getting in the way and he's green, and like I don't know. But yeah, it's cool. Like it presents like a couple different like sort of Mario biomes, right? Like you're up in the clouds at one point. There's definitely a Bowser Castle part of it. There's a Luigi's Mansion thing. Like King Boo is in there. You got to shoot him with shells. But like the best part of this ride is the end of it, the Rainbow Road.
Yeah, you get a star, and so you're like you're going fast, you're invincible,
and you have unlimited shells at this point.
Yes.
Right?
I think
because
so. Yeah,
that's like what the star does, and it's just all of your teammates disappear, and it's just the Koopa kids, and you can just blast the heck out of them.
And Bowser's really like flying around. It was. I think it is a very, very fun ride.
Yeah,
and
a good time.
The like the lights. And there's like a blowing air thing that's happening there too, which makes it feel faster than it actually is. But like that's, it's that sort of like 4D experience where they're like throwing something at you. And because it's Universal loves to like get you just a little bit wet. Like just squirt a little bit of water on you, like the Simpsons ride, like squirts water at you all the time. So does the Harry Potter ride. No water being squirted at you.
Yeah, that's right.
That is interesting.
In fact, I don't think we got squirted with water at anything in Super Nintendo World, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
I really liked Bowser's Challenge. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm actually kind of like surprised at how successful it is as a game, because other on the one hand, if you're describing it to somebody, it's like maybe it's not that different from like a Buzz Lightyear ride or like the Toy Story Mania ride at Disneyland and California Adventure, but for whatever reason, it feels more like a game than those other ones do.
I think it's the limited number of shells. I think it's the fact that the coins that you earn in that carry over to like your profile, because you synced up your power up band, and then that is your profile on your phone. Like, it feels weighty. It feels like you've actually done something, instead of, like you get a high score in the Buzz Lightyear thing and you're like, okay, well, that's it.
Yeah, you can lose. The fact that the first time we played, we lost was also kind of like, I mean, it was still a fun experience, but you're like, oh, like, I want to do that again because I think I can do it better.
Yep. Well, and like beyond, I think I can do it better. There's like a whole page of stamps that are just for the Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge. And there are like different things, where it's like, hit all of the Koopa Kids and Bowser with shells in one run. Hit Bowser with this many shells, whatever. But there are also like stamps in there that like we would click on them to see what triggers them, and it'd be like, hit the secret block, in the cloud section. And you're like, secret block? Like there are secrets. There are things to discover on that ride. There are things to discover on that ride. I don't know. It makes me want to like go back and do it over and over again until we find all those secrets.
Yes, absolutely. And it feels in the same way that in a meta way, all of Super Nintendo World feels this way. It does feel like the next generation of these kinds of interactive games.
Yeah.
Because it makes, honestly, Buzz Lightyear seem janky. It seems like a carnival ride. Like, yeah, they stop you and you're not moving, and then you shoot things. Oh, cool. Like, no, I'm moving in my car. My car's spinning around and I'm using my AR, and there's things coming in and out of my sight. And like, it's the next generation. It's great.
There's a lot of like animatronics in the Super Nintendo world, but there's also a fair amount of, technology, right? These AR screens here. When we get into the Toad Cafe, that's everything that happens in there is like screen based, right? All the characters that you interact with, all the stuff that like attractions in there are screen based. Are you worried that there's like a part of, because like part of what makes that like Midway Mania look kind of janky now is that like the technology is just like getting older, and like you can see the seams in it. Will we get to that same sort of place with Super Nintendo World, where it'll be like, oh, these screens aren't as like sharp as they need to be, or is it protected a little bit by like the Nintendo aesthetic?
I think any sort of like theme park experience has to get over that, like, honestly, it's like 20 or 30 year hump where it goes from being like janky to being a classic, where you're like, oh, like they can't touch this. But at Universal, things usually don't last that long. So I'm really interested to see, like Disney has that legacy of, they keep a lot of stuff for a very long time, and rarely do they, rip out something old to replace it with something new. Whereas Universal does not have that kind of,
they don't have that
nostalgia. No, they don't at all. And so it will be really interesting to see how it evolves in the future.
I just like, I think about how, for me, one of the like easy comps, for the Mario Kart ride is Smuggler's Run at Disney as in Galaxy's Edge, because that is also like a game, right?
Yeah, that's for people who aren't familiar, it's like the Millennium Falcon ride. So a group of 6 people get into the Millennium Falcon, and everybody's assigned a role. 2 people are like the pilots, 2 people are the gunners, and 2 people are engineers. And it's like a simulator ride. But how the pilots are doing, like if they're crashing into stuff or if the engineers are not pushing the buttons at the right time, affects your experience.
Yeah, a little bit.
To a degree.
And like at the end, you're awarded a certain number of credits. But like those credits don't go on your datapad thing. Like that experience is isolated to just the experience itself, which is, I think, one of the ways that the Mario Kart ride is better. But also, like, the screens in Smuggler's Run are already starting to feel old. Like they're already starting to feel like faded, and like I don't know if the like AR visors are like protected against that in some way, or what. I just don't want it to feel old, even though I know at some point it will.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Does Super Mario Brothers feel old? Like I think it's okay for it to stay where it is in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Smuggler's Run is a weird one because I think, and I know this is not a Galaxy's Edge podcast, but like I think they were
It's a useful reference point,
They were
though.
trying to create something that people of all ages and skill sets could do, and nobody would feel like a loser. This game is a real game. This Mario Kart, you can lose.
Yeah.
There are stakes, and there is skill to it. And it's a skill, I think, that even little kids, I'm sure there were little kids who won their 100 points or their 100 coins. But, like, it is a game that you're actually, there's a skill to it. It's a game. Whereas Smuggler's Run doesn't feel like,
no,
I wanted it to be when I had heard about it and hadn't played it before. I thought it might be, but half of it is button mashing.
Yeah. Well, actually, most of it is button.
Yeah.
Like,
unless you're the pilot.
Unless you're the pilot. Yeah. Well, so I wonder if the success of it as a game does so much to override. Obviously, we saw the thing brand new.
Yeah.
But like that, we were wowed by the technology. And like. I didn't bother to like pick holes in the way it looked because I was just having fun.
Yeah, totally.
And so maybe that's the difference.
And I think you're right. I think Smuggler's Run is a really good, that Millennium Falcon ride like is a really good like analog, because I think they were trying to accomplish very similar things where it's like your score and you want to go again to try to do better. I am a really big Star Wars fan. I love the idea of Smuggler's Run. I really don't like that ride. Like, I don't.
The
think
execution isn't good.
I don't think it's very fun.
The lobby is the best part.
Yes.
Yeah,
when you're
for
hanging
sure.
out in the Millennium Falcon, that is the best part of it.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's interesting to see these two different executions, kind of like that same core idea, like trying to achieve the same goal, seemingly, and like Bowser's Challenge is so much more fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll take a Mario game over a Star Wars game any day. You know, just any day. Okay, are we going to move on now to Toadstool Cafe?
Yeah, let's talk about Toadstool Cafe.
First, meet and greets.
We did one.
We did one. Yeah,
we met Princess Peach. These characters, I gotta say, strange to see them in physical space.
I feel like Mario and Luigi, who we didn't see, we left before like. Because we had already been there for like 5 hours by the time that they were scheduled to arrive, and so we left before. But based on the pictures, it seems like they're more successful because they're so much more cartoony. Mm-hmm. Whereas like Princess Peach was fine, but just like a little uncanny valley, especially because I didn't realize this, but she talks.
Yes.
And like her eyes like dart back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, her eyes are screens.
Oh, are they screens?
Is
that what was going on?
Like her eyes were able to like move around and like emote a little bit.
Yeah.
And her like mouth moved with like some preloaded like Peach isms. And so she spoke when people like walked up to take pictures with her.
Yeah. But Peach is a little uncanny valley, but still fun.
And her hair, the hair is something like, because it has so much like shape to it, and that like it's a cartoon design for hair, but you see it like rendered in 3D space with like actual fibers, and it's like, I don't know, it feels insane.
Yeah, no, she looked wild.
She looked wild, but we got pictures with her.
We got pictures with her. People love a meet and greet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting that there were two separate spaces for meet and greet in this very small, for a theme park land, a very small square footage amount of space.
Yeah.
That they had two gazebos for meet and greets set up.
And the Mario and Luigi one is more like, it looks like a Mario level, and the Peach one is like a white and pink gazebo.
Yeah. And it feels like, especially because we never saw them overlap.
Right.
Right. Why would you do it this way?
why not just have one meet and greet place and have them take turns being at the meet and greet
exactly
place?
what I
especially when space is so limited. I've got to say though, I would go back, or I guess next I won't make a trip for it, but next time I'm there, like I would like to meet Mario and Luigi.
Yeah.
So would I.
And I desperately hope, like, if they bring Chunky Toad over here,
Bring Chunky Toad.
I would make a trip to see, like of the characters that are theoretically available, like Toad is the one that I want to get a picture taken with.
I mean, they could get me back to the park tomorrow if Wario's there. Like, or like a Bowser.
A Bowser,
like,
that'd be cool.
Some big weird costume, I think would be
that'd be very fun
to interact with.
Yeah.
We took pictures with Peach early enough in the day that and it was the only time that the sun was out. And there's no like internal lighting in the gazebo, so the only sun was coming from, or the only light was coming from the sun, which means that like half of us in the picture were in sunlight.
It made for
and the
some
other half
pretty
weren't.
awkward pictures because no matter where the photographer stood, their shadow is in the photo because it's like casting a really long shadow.
And it's also, I mean, again, just to keep going back to comparing it to Galaxy's Edge, when you get pictures taken at Galaxy's Edge, they're doing like augmented reality stuff there, and they're putting a Porg on your arm, or like there's an X-Wing flying overhead or whatever. And they send those pictures to you, and you're paying to access them and all this kind of stuff. But they just like, there's a dude there to take your phone and take pictures with your phone.
I will say that's something that just Disney has down.
Absolutely.
A cast member doesn't take a bad picture of you at Disney.
True.
You take bad pictures of each other.
Right.
But like, there are bad angles at Disney, but the cast members know the good angles.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And sometimes, like you said, they have cool AR porgs and stuff.
Yeah.
But
the guy that was out here with Peach. Yeah, the guy that was out here with Peach was a Peach handler first and a photographer second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was more about the meet than it was about the photo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think for us, we were really about the photo.
Yeah.
I don't think we waited in that line so that we could stand near a person in a Peach costume.
I mean, we also wanted to scan that thing and get the
we wanted
Peach
to get
stamp.
stamp.
We wanted the stamp.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. Now Toadstool Cafe?
Yes, the Odyssey of the Forks.
Okay, so Toadstool Cafe, Mark, you and Sarah got us like a time to check in.
Yeah, so if you're going soon, my recommendation is, again, we got into the land early, and when we first got there, the cafe was open. You could just kind of like go in to order, but pretty quickly they started accumulating like a queue. So about maybe 8:30 at the latest, instead of having you just like wait in line for the Toadstool Cafe, they started handing out return time. So you would go to somebody at the front of the cafe, and they would give you a little slip of paper that, from what I understood and what worked for us, is like one slip of paper covered your entire party. Mm-hmm. And it had like a return time. So ours was between 9 and 9:15.
But we still, when we returned, had to like wait in a line to get in before they looked at our ticket.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it still worked out, but it was definitely one of those moments where you don't have faith, or I didn't have faith in the people management, and I think it was luck that it worked out.
You had to do a lot of like asking,
yeah,
like you had to be proactive, and this was true, I think, of a lot of the land, of just like, am I in the right place? What line should what is this line for? Because
the downside of there being no language anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, what should I be doing? Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of, like some of us would stand in a line to hedge our bets, and then somebody else would go and actually like ask, what are we in line for, to make sure that we were in the right place. But yeah, so my recommendation would be, especially if you're there early, would be to get like a return time. And it may not be your optimal time to eat lunch, but the Toadstool Cafe, our experience was that it was like very slow, operationally, like very slow moving. And so take the opportunity where you can to do it if it's an important part of your visit, because there's no guarantee you're going to get in.
Yeah, and it was our longest line.
It was, for sure.
By a significant margin. And the line quadrupled.
When we left, it was truly nuts.
Snaking around.
Yeah.
Like, it was Yeah, it was taking up a lot of space. And once you get in, so there's like a nice little antechamber right when you come in that has a very like Toad House from New Super Mario Brothers feel. You can scan your power up band to get either like the big present or the little present, and there are power ups in there. And the power ups are really just good for stamps, right?
Right.
Sarah got the leaf power up in there, so she's got that stamp, and I didn't. Mark, you and I got 1-ups, I think, and Ryan got coins.
Some coins, yeah.
Which like it's cool that there's like a little thing in there, but it's also weird because you're like standing in line to get food, and you're like, well, I want to just like keep going, and people are coming in behind you and like going past you because they didn't want to get whatever. But so we stand in kind of a slow line to order our food, and it's just that like Mark said, like the whole thing is just like you need to be like aggressive about like representing yourself and your interests in these things to make sure that like you're getting in line, you're getting a table, and then eventually getting silverware, which was a whole odyssey for us.
Well, so the way that it's set up is you go and there's like a couple of queues, and then there are like 4 or 5 registers, and a team member will direct you to like a line to stand in, and it's important that your whole party be there. It's really
the group ahead of us did not have their whole party.
Yeah, and they kind of had to like wait until everybody could get there. It's not one of those things where you're going to be able to just like order 4 people and have them meet you there.
Right.
And there's
there's no like ordering on an app or anything like that either.
Right.
Like, it's all meat space.
And the seating is all inside, and there's a person who will seat you. But you order at this counter, and we, for the most part, ordered everything on the menu.
Yeah, we really
I think
did.
Like we left off the things on the kids menu, and I think there was like
there was a burger that we didn't get. I can run through the list of what we got.
Okay, cool.
So we got the toadstool cheesy garlic knots. We got the super mushroom soup and the tomato soup in the super mushroom bowl. The piranha plant caprese. The Yoshi's favorite fruit and veggie salad, Luigi burger, which is a pesto grilled chicken thing, the fire flower spaghetti and meatballs, and then we got the 3 superstar lemon squashes, which was the like fancy soda drink that's sort of like a boba thing, and then all 3 desserts: the question block tiramisu, the Mount Beanpole cake, and the Princess Peach cupcake.
And all of Toadstool Cafe is like, it's really cute. Like it's
Very
done really
cute,
well,
yes.
and everything's like really well themed. Like
Chef Toad.
Chef
So
Toad,
cute.
Chef Toad,
so cute. That's the one merchandise I got other than my
He's
power up
best.
band was like a little Chef Toad plush, and even like the soda machines are in this like wood inlay, where you can see the Coke logos, but they're like seemingly like engraved into the wood and everything.
Yeah, which is the same sort of stuff that they do in like Harry Potter too. But like it's just cool to see it applied.
And you have like like full size fire flowers and like on the wall and like power ups, like that sort of thing. And then after you order at the counter, they get you your drinks and are supposed to give you your silverware. Don't leave without silverware. That was
we
key
will
mistake.
be harping on this for the rest of the episode, by the way.
And then to your left is like the entrance to the seating area, which is really like pretty large and
shockingly empty while we were there, considering the line.
Yeah, they really slowed you down before seating you.
Yeah, I would say operationally the restaurant was pretty inefficient. Yeah, and maybe it's just opening.
I'd say washed. I'd say like it was broken.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like operationally, but yeah. So you get from that point, like somebody will direct you to a table, and when you order, you're given a little device that you set on your table, and that's how they like know where you're sitting and to bring your food to you there. But inside are like a number of like windows in air quotes that have TVs behind them. Some of them are showing like into the kitchen, so you see some toads
Very
like
cute.
whipping up a stew or working. There's like a assembly line,
all electric stovetops. In the
that's
Toad
right.
kitchen,
Yeah,
yes.
all electric stovetops. And then a few of these windows are like looking to the outside, And every, I would say maybe 15 or 20 minutes, this like the room takes on this ominous like purple and blue hue.
Yes.
And you see outside the window like an airship that is coming to like
and
attack.
you hear the airship music.
And like that's coming to attack this town. And like the toads stop working in the kitchen, they all run away, and then bullet bills start flying, and little toads are running around, and then everything returns back to normal.
And then they go back to like playing leapfrog, or
so cute.
There was one that like kind of looked in the window, like he was looking at us having lunch.
And they're playing, all Mario themes from all eras of Mario in this really fun orchestration. And so that part of it, like the atmosphere, everything is really fun, and the food looks really like cute.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's talk food. Okay. So let's start with the drink, with the lemon
squash.
The lemon honey.
Superstar
lemon squash, which is a honey lemon soda with mango stars and assorted tropical bobas. This thing was sweet.
Oh, and delicious.
It was so sweet and delicious.
It was very delicious.
I feel like
we drank ours so fast.
We drank ours. We needed water. We needed water, and we drank lemon squash. But I really think this could be a good cocktail.
Oh my god!
A little rum in it, like I think it could be delicious. I mean, you'd probably get a headache in the morning, but it would be worth it.
I got a headache anyway.
It's so much sugar. But I love the little bobas. I love the little stars. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun way to like start the meal, and then like a thing to sip on for 20 minutes before our first set of food came to us.
Yeah, I feel like the presentation of everything is really fun. Like the soups come in these like mushroom bowls that look like power-up mushrooms, and you like,
remove the head part of it, so it's just like the little white bowl.
And they had like little the mushroom soup had 3 little crackers in it that had mushrooms imprinted on it. You got the Luigi chicken sandwich, and it has a mustache, and like the toothpick is
a Luigi
hat. Like the and your Yoshi salad had these. Were they was it just bread that looked like Yoshi eggs?
No.
Or like,
they were croutons.
Croutons
that were shaped and colored like Yoshi eggs. And it had some fruit, either like kiwi or pear or something, cut into the shape of stars. But I think the most visually impressive thing non-dessert thing on the menu is the piranha plant caprese.
Yeah.
Because they use the like slices of tomato and like little circles of mozzarella cheese to make it look like the piranha plant.
It's really fun.
Like it's a really effective image, and it was just nice to have so many vegetarian options on this menu in the form of both of those salads and both of the soups.
The downside is it took us about an hour to get forks. We asked multiple people.
Yeah, to be clear, we got our food
yes.
with 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
And then it was, another 40 minutes before forks appeared.
And it wasn't for a lack of, like, trying.
Right. On our part.
Yeah. They just genuinely, seemingly, they had no clean forks.
Yes.
And so, and plus, it was not anybody's job to get us forks. And so... Like
everyone we stopped, we were adding something to their to-do list.
Exactly, and so people did not feel nobody. In the end, we ended up getting forks, and the people who brought it were like very kind. But we did stop a lot of people being like, "Could we get forks?" And they'd be like, "Yes," and then we would never see them ever again.
Right.
Yep.
And so it was only after some pretty aggressive asking, going back up to the front, and just like seeing if somebody could get us forks, that we learned that there literally were no clean forks in the restaurant.
We got knives.
Yeah, like we got knives, we got spoons. There were no forks.
And just again, this is at a restaurant that doesn't serve breakfast at 9:40 a.m.
That is a third full at this point.
Yeah. So like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. But eventually, we did get clean forks, and they were hot. They were hot forks.
Yeah,
they had just gone
clean.
through the dishwasher. But so it was just like stuff like that. Again, like nobody was mean. Everybody, was, or most of the people were apologetic that they didn't have any forks. It just made for like a weird experience.
Yeah, a weird and long experience. And we'd been running around for a couple hours before that, so like we were cool to like sit and hang out for a while. But yeah, it would have been nice to have forks when our food hit the table. How were your meals?
I would say, as far as theme park food goes, it was pretty good. But I got the fire flower spaghetti and meatballs, and for whatever reason, it wasn't disgusting. It just like wasn't to my taste.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that. Maybe this is the fire flower part of it. It had like a spice to it, like a little bit of a kick, which I don't usually expect at theme parks because they're trying to make something that's palatable to everybody. But yeah, it was better than most theme park food, but not good.
Yeah, I would say I'm in the same camp. I had that pesto chicken sandwich, and it was tasty and good. I did have like more chicken than the sandwich, and then I wanted to eat the chicken, but I didn't have a fork. So that was kind of a bummer.
Right.
But no, and it came with truffle fries that were very there was a ton of truffle powder on them.
It's interesting how mushroom forward this menu is.
Yes, very mushroom forward.
Because like I don't think of that as a like a normal, like a mainstream American flavor profile.
And it's also, if you think about it too hard, it gets weird.
Right, because you're like, am I eating these little people?
Yeah, these little people are serving me mushrooms.
Right.
These little toad people.
But like the Mario burger has mushrooms on it. The mushroom soup was one of the main soups. The fries had truffle on them.
Yeah.
I think that's most of it. Oh, the tomato soup had like a slice of a mushroom as like a garnish, like an edible garnish. But like still, it's just like mushroom.
Yeah, and definitely presentation was better than I expect from any fast theme park eating. Like it looked every plate looked. I mean, it was all Instagrammable. Like
very deliberate.
Yes,
every plate looked great.
Which is actually a pretty good transition point for us talking about the desserts.
Yes.
Because the desserts they hit the table first, right?
Yeah.
And so we just had them like lined up in the center of the table for like an hour before we touched them. But again, just to recap, it is the question block tiramisu, the Mount Beanpole cake, and the Princess Peach cupcake. Let's talk about the question block tiramisu. Actually, overall, like blanket statement, like how did you find these desserts? Did you like them? Was it worth having dessert to have these desserts?
They all looked great.
They all looked great.
They were fine. It was also 11 or 10:30 at this point, and I just ate lunch. I would not return for any of these desserts.
Right. They all felt, Ryan, you pointed this out as we were eating them, they all felt like they were freezer case items.
Yes, they all tasted like they came out of a freezer case. So, which is fine, but they looked like something that would be fancy or high quality, and then the quality of the actual texture didn't live up to it. But if I had a niece and she wanted a glitter cupcake, I mean, it's cute.
And it tastes like funfetti.
And it tastes like funfetti. Sure.
I mean, was there to you guys a clear like winner among these desserts?
I think the tiramisu, and I'm sure I'm being pulled by how cool it looked.
Yeah.
I loved the way it looked. It looked so cool.
The look is incredible because it's like 5 cookie cracker things making up the sides of a cube that have question marks drawn on them. And then just like the inside was the tiramisu itself.
Yeah. I really liked that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I thought all of it was kind of like, oh yeah, like this looked really cool and perfect for Instagram. But, I mean, none of it was terrible, but I didn't, it was fun to eat there. I'm glad we ate there. I'm glad we tried all the different stuff.
I'm glad we did too, but that is definitely when everything else feels like the games are fun to play, the ride is fun to go on, it's fun to like collect stuff in the park, and then for the food to be like okay, fine, like passable, good by theme park standards is like, especially when the challenge of getting in and getting your food and getting forks is so high that the reward feels low.
Yeah. I will say that while we were waiting for the forks, I slipped out and went and used the bathroom. And the bathroom is like underwater Mario level themed. So you go in and it has like a big mural that shows kind of like showcases a new Super Mario Brothers like underwater level motif. And then all of the tile and everything in the bathroom are various shades of blue. And then they're playing like the Mario underwater theme.
Which is
and
hilarious.
I like that very
it's so
much.
funny.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so that was our Toadstool Cafe and bathroom experience. I guess the only other thing in the park that I guess maybe there are a handful of things that just sort of like wrapping up. But One Up Factory, the like merch store that's also serves as like the exit point for Bowser's Challenge. We spent a little bit of time in there, but I think we all sort of like ran up against like the limitations of what. Mark, you had mentioned before that like you wanted an excuse to go crazy.
Yeah, I was
and,
ready.
Like, buy something.
I was like ready to spend money, but there really wasn't. I did end up getting like the Chef Toad stuffed animal, but otherwise, like surprisingly, there wasn't really anything that I was very excited to buy.
Yeah, I feel like everything that was sort of neat comes with like an asterisk, right? Like, there was a mug that Ryan, you were checking out, but like just a Mario mug.
Yeah.
If there was also a Luigi mug, then like
that would be cute.
Maybe we're talking. But no, just the Mario mug. There are pint glasses in there for various characters, and it's like a solid color with the character on it, but they're made of plastic. They're not made of glass. So like, I don't know. I feel like there are so many things that were like close, but didn't quite get to the level of like, oh, I want that or oh, I need that.
Yeah, there's just surprisingly limited amount of merchandise, and the One-Up store is really small for being like the only store in the land itself, and because it's the exit point for the ride, it gets really crowded really easily, which is just kind of like the theme of the entire land is just it's doing a lot in a really cramped space, and so when people are occupying it, everything just feels chaotic.
Yeah. Let's see the other things. Ryan sort of mentioned it, but there are the like secret Mario tap points where usually we would find the 8-bit Mario characters. Very cool to find these things. The first one I sort of did by accident. We got like a little Princess Peach like 8-bit that was just like I tapped the wall and there she was. Like, and I'm not sure how that was happening. Like, was the whole wall a screen? It was just like a light behind it. It wasn't a projection.
No, I think it was a light behind the wall.
Behind the wall, yeah.
But it was cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And we found 4, I think.
We found all of them, yeah.
Oh, is that all of them?
Yeah,
okay.
Mario, Luigi, Bowser, and the princess. Because we also got there are stamps for getting each one of them, and then a stamp for getting all 4.
Oh, okay.
And I got that stamp. The other thing that we haven't really talked about is the binoculars. So there's like a lookout that you can go to that sort of like looks out over the world. And there are, like in like Odyssey, there are those like little binocular things that you can go up to and like see out through the rest of the world. That's exactly what's happening here. And it is also like an AR experience. So you're looking through these binoculars and you're seeing the world out there, but there's also like things flying around. And this is one that like kind of perplexed us a little bit, right? Because there's a stamp for like see Rosalina, zoom in on Rosalina using the binoculars. And to our eyes, there wasn't a place to like scan your power-up band, but I got a stamp for using the binoculars.
But I didn't. So I don't know if I like wasn't positioning my hands in the right place or something like that. Also, there's also a stamp for seeing the Pikmin.
Right.
And you did see the Pikmin in the
right, and I didn't get it.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I don't know if I didn't like zoom in on it. Right. I mean, it's one of those things where like there's not always feedback for when you accomplish something until like you check your phone and be like, oh, I did that. And yeah, that's one place where like that was sort of lacking.
It also goes to, and both the Bowser's Challenge and this like upper area are not ADA accessible at all.
No, true.
And there don't seem to be elevators or any easy way for someone with mobility issues to access these things.
Yeah, there were some doors up there that maybe went to, I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a good point.
Yeah, so I if you have mobility issues,
Yeah, I don't know how you experience
it might
that.
be hard to get the full use of the thing. Oh, also, and I ended up fitting fine, but the Bowser's Challenge ride is not for big people.
Right.
There's a waist limit of 40 inches.
42 inches, right?
I think it was 40 inches when I read it, but or maybe that was just my waist. And I fit fine, but if you're a bigger person, I think you're just out of luck.
Well, also the table.
I apologize. You're right. It is 40 inches.
The table at the Toadstool Cafe, like we were 4 adults and we fit, but it was a pretty it was a pretty tight,
it was pretty tight.
snug fit. So yeah, also something to be aware of for sure.
But so that, I think, is the extent of our experience at Super Nintendo World.
I think so, too. And again, it was another one where, we didn't know where the exit was. We were like, okay, have we done everything? Okay, we're going to leave. And I was like, actually, I want to go see what that,
that's funny.
Yeah.
There's one big green pipe here that I don't know what that is. And so we, walked over to it, and we should do that before we leave. And we walked over to it, and I asked the woman that was standing in front of it, what is this? It's the exit.
That's how you leave.
Yeah, there's just not...
Again, no signs
There's
anywhere.
no sign anywhere, yeah.
Well, and the entrance has a portal feel to it.
Yes, very funny. Let's talk about the entrance and how you get into the park here an hour and a half into the conversation. But, you go in through a pipe that, leads you into Peach's castle. And it is very cool as you're walking in because there are, lights. You've probably seen video of this already, but, that makes you feel like you are going into another little world.
And then the exit is like you're exiting into an airport. It's industrial. It's like you walk past the threshold of the entrance of the pipe and they're like, yeah, it's over. Move on.
Definitely the kind of limitation of space that Universal Studios Hollywood has makes for an awkward entry and exit experience because you go Universal Studios is on 2 levels of a mountain. There's the entrance to the park. It's on the top of a mountain, and then what they call the upper lot. And then there's the lower lot that you take 3 enormous escalators to
just
get down.
Huge escalators. You're on these escalators for 8, 9, 10 minutes.
Yeah, because the elevation difference between the top and the bottom of this theme park,
your ears will pop.
And so you're in the lower lot, and it is still really difficult to find the entrance to. It's not you would think that Super Nintendo World would have that they would have signage or something directing you to it, but not really. No. It's hidden behind what used to be a Panda Express.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to aim. You got to identify Transformers and Jurassic World and aim for right between. But yeah, it's coming out of Super Nintendo World, the aesthetics that you're bombarded with are, like you say, very industrial, right? Because again, Transformers is right there, and Jurassic World, which is very high tech, very sleek. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, it's just it's jarring to come out of something so warm and green and friendly, and then here's this cold gray ride at Jurassic World. Do we want to talk about the rest of our day at Universal? We can just go through the rest of these quick. We did go on the Jurassic World.
We did. I had not done it before. It was super fun.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's the best thing to come out of that franchise.
Out of the Jurassic World franchise.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
No, out of Jurassic Park, that piece of junk movie.
Ryan, no, you don't mean that.
I don't. I'm kidding. I love it.
Yeah, that ride's great. And then we got a beer at Moe's and went to the Waterworld stunt show.
Well, we rode the Mummy.
Oh, we rode the Mummy. I forgot about the Mummy.
It broke and someone had a stomach problem.
We think.
Well,
did we have
evidence? We saw it getting cleaned up, so it could have been. I mean, there's only so many things.
There are only so many problems you could have. Yeah, it's true.
But we saw it get cleaned up. We didn't end up in the puke seats.
We don't think.
Well, no, we clocked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although I assume every seat on that
Probably
ride at one point or another has been the puke seat, but
that Mummy ride's good.
Yeah, it's a fun ride.
And then we got a beer at Moe's, and then we went to the Waterworld stunt show, which Sarah had never seen before.
Oh,
and if you
are
a beer drinker, I highly recommend having half a beer to watch the Waterworld stunt show.
It's perfect.
It's a great pairing.
Yeah. Although Waterworld stunt show, great. It was not weather to get wet by.
No.
It was cold.
Yeah. I think Mark was nervous we were going to get wet.
We were sitting behind, like, there were green benches for the splash zone, and we were sitting at the first not green bench, and it's not like there's a magic wall at any, like, it felt possible, but the section we were sitting in, I don't think got wet at all.
No, we had like the nice guy.
Right. There are like three little hosts at the beginning of the show that do like a little watery clown show before the stunts start. And the dude in the middle section guy, he was getting his section as wet as possible.
Yes.
And then there was like the sort of goof off on the right side that was soaking his section, and then our guy was just nice.
Yeah.
I don't think he threw one bucket.
I don't think he threw one bucket.
I don't
think he even filled up his like water gun thing.
No, that works for us.
I love that stunt show.
It's so fun. I highly recommend it if you go to Universal.
It's so cool to see jet skis driving around with such precision.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about that feels like magic to me. And feels like it could be part of, look, if they want to brand that as part of Super Nintendo world and make that a wave race stunt show, I'd be all for it.
Wave race, people are like getting set on fire, falling from high buildings.
They should put the Mariner in wave race. All right, that was our experience at Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Hollywood. Let's close this out. Ryan Mogge.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so
at
much.
The park and here to talk about it.
Absolutely.
No, this has been great. 2 great days with you guys.
Wonderful days. Do you have anything that you would like to plug?
Well, I do a podcast called Same Day Shipping with Patrick and Kelly Nugent and Colin Morris. And we took a bit of some little hiatuses in late 2022, but we're back dropping regular episodes
every week.
And
we've got one coming out tomorrow.
Yep.
So, well, again, thank you so much for coming on to talk about this, and thank you to our 16-bit patron Connor McCabe. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell. Ryan is
R Mogge.
And the show is at Nincart Society. Also, join our Discord. If you haven't already, email us for an invitation. We will send one to you. Email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.